Well, we'll forgive you if you've been a little distracted these past few weeks by, I don't know, the war in Syria, the opioid crisis, the rise of China, your own unsustainable credit card debt. You may not be fretting about the real issues plaguing the world, but fear not, CNN has that covered. A story on CNN's website covers the world's most important topic, obviously you know what it is, transgender migrants seeking asylum in America. In a glowing profile, CNN profiles Nicole Contreras, who's a Honduran biological male who wants to come to this country to claim asylum so that he can more easily identify as a woman. Contreras is part of that caravan headed for the United States. When he arrives, he will doubtless receive thousands in benefits, legal assistance, probably medical care. Will that make this a better country? I don't know. CNN thinks so. So celebrate it. Meanwhile, in New York, they love Chick-fil-A in New York. One Manhattan location says it sells a chicken sandwich every 6 seconds of the day. The New Yorker magazine, by contrast, does not love Chick-fil-A. A new piece in the New Yorker calls the restaurant, quote, creepy. Why? Quote, the brand's arrival here feels like an infiltration, in no small part because of its pervasive Christian traditionalism, end quote. Think about this. In the largest city in the country, a country that has been majority Christian for its entire history as a country, there's now a restaurant that is owned by Christians, and that is offensive, says the New Yorker magazine. It's creepy. In fact, it's an infiltration. Meanwhile, every other corner in Midtown has a halal cart manned by a guy who grew up 6,000 miles from here and barely speaks English. But that's not an infiltration. It's diversity, and if you don't celebrate it, you must be punished. Ha! Has any country, taking 3 steps back, ever had a less impressive intellectual class than ours currently does? Mark Stein has studied the history of intellectual classes through history, and he joins us tonight with a verdict on that.
Well, I have studied the New Yorker. I mean, I haven't read it in a long while, but I can safely say this appallingly written piece would never have run under Harold Ross or even Tina Brown in the good old days. This sentence I love. This guy is upset because, quote, the restaurant's corporate purpose still begins with the words to glorify God. It still begins with the words to glorify God because God is so 2013. Anthony Kennedy ruled that God is outmoded, and now you cannot, it's offensive to be served a chicken sandwich made by a guy who believes in the same definition of marriage as Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton did 10 years ago. So this guy is saying we can't tolerate Christian traditionalists serving us their homophobic chicken sandwiches. We already know a so-called pervasive Christian traditionalist can't be a Hollywood producer, he can't be a New Yorker columnist, he can't be a Broadway choreographer, and now he can't even make you a lousy homophobic chicken sandwich. But what's all the Christian traditionalists should be out of work, sleeping under a bridge, sleeping under the Brooklyn Bridge.
What's so weird, though, is that the halal guy, and some of them are super nice and I like their food, not attacking the halal guys, but if you pressed on their attitudes on these same issues, they're way more medieval than the Chick-fil-A guys, and yet the New Yorker loves them. Why is that?
Oh, no. I like the halal food. I'm not on board with the throwing the gays off buildings or the main doctrinal dispute. I had this from Imam Karadawi. His main doctrinal dispute is whether you should throw gays off tall buildings or burn them alive. That would be a fascinating thing for this big butch New Yorker guy to take against. You mentioned Venezuela. Citgo stations are all over New York, and the president of the company is Hugo Chavez's cousin. And in Venezuela right now, they're actually eating domestic animals. They're not eating homophobic chicken, they're eating their own dogs and cats because of what they've done to them.
We're lacking perspective, I would say, on some of these issues, but I appreciate you bringing it, as you always do. Mark Stein, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
Do you remember